The New York Post recently reached out to the prior district attorney, George Gascon, Megan Pete and her representatives, and Kelsey Harris and her representatives. The only party that responded last week was Megan Pete's representatives with a request for more information. A few days later, Mr. Peterson's brutally attacked in his jail cell.
We break it down, no script, no mold. Raw and uncut, every gem is gold. Locked in now, let the facts unfold. Q bringing heat on Truth Be Told.
What's going on, squad? Welcome back to the Truth Be Told podcast. I'm your host, Q. And listen, this Tory Lanez and Meg Thee Stallion story is getting wild. So apparently there is a somewhat witness that has come forth and has stated that they have heard or overheard conversations that would lead them to know that Tory Lanez did not pew Meg Thee Stallion in her foot, although he is serving time for that. There's a press conference that was done by a group of people who have been looking into this particular case. And within this press conference, they pretty much laid it out as to what happened. And the reason why this is important is because the moment this information became known, that there was someone that was implicating someone else other than Tory Lanez, a few days later was attacked in jail and stabbed 14 times. Was this a hit? Was this a way to hush up? Nobody knows. I will tell you this. I think that this whole situation has indirect but historical implications, and I'll let you know why a little further into this segment. Now, I'm about to become, which I normally don't do this, but I'm about to become conspiracy theorist number one. But before we get into that, listen to this press conference about Tory Lanez and his involvement or lack thereof with this pew-pewing of Meg Thee Stallion in the foot. Check it out.
Not long ago, Unite the People was approached by a gentleman named Bradley James. Mr. James informed us he was working as the bodyguard and driver for Ms. Kelsey Harris during Mr. Peterson's trial. As such, he was in close proximity and he had privy to conversations she was having with her husband and others. Mr. James informed us he was not under a non-disclosure agreement or a confidentiality agreement and was free to speak with Unite the People, and that he was doing it because his conscience would not let him not speak and leave a man in prison for something he did not do. Mr. James informed Unite the People that he was witness to the conversation Ms. Harris had where she stated she had the gun, she fired it 3 times, Mr. Peterson grabbed her arm and knocked it down, and the gun fired 2 more times. In essence, Mr. Peterson never shot anybody, never even touched that gun, never fired the gun. This statement aligns with the statement of the only non-party witness to the case, Mr. Sean Kelly, who at trial testified he saw 2 women fighting, 2 men break up the fight, 1 man grabbed the other one's arm. Gunshots came from the passenger side. The passenger side is where Ms. Harris was sitting. This further iterates that Mr. Peterson did not shoot Miss Pete, did not shoot at Miss Pete, or did not assault Miss Pete. It's just another irregularity in a list of irregularities in this case. For example, there were 3 potential suspects in the car that night, and yet the only DNA sample was taken of Mr. Peterson, even though unknown DNA was found on the gun. Why wasn't Miss Harris's DNA taken? Or was it taken and the information simply never given to the defense? Why wasn't the driver of the car, Mr. Jaquan Smith's DNA taken? Or was it taken and again, simply not given to the defense? We don't know. It should have been taken. It is Unite the People's understanding, regular LAPD practice at a crime scene like that, anybody who's there, DNA is taken. Another irregularity. Why, at Ms. Harris's police interview, was a non-lawyer, non-family member record company executive allowed to participate? Highly irregular situation. Normally, we see cases, strangers are not allowed in these things, but it was in this case.
Okay, so there we have that. Now, some of you may be asking yourselves, why Tory Lanez? Like, what's the big deal with Tory Lanez? Why? How does he fit into this, shut him down and send him to jail for life type of movement? This is where I become conspiracy theorist. It seems as though everyone who speaks against the machine, or everyone who speaks against the entertainment industry, the industry as a whole, seems to have their lives completely ruined, up to the point where many of them are unalived. And I think that going back about 3 years, Tory Lanez put himself in a situation where he joined that group of people who were speaking out against the industry. Unknowingly, he and I don't think he knew the implications of the information he was giving out as it pertains to the machine itself. But just to give you some context, Tory Lanez had a few years ago sold 1 million copies of an EP that he released for 99 cents, and he did it by way of an NFT. I'm not going to get into what NFTs are, but they're non-fungible tokens. They're basically digital assets. So he created 1 million streams of this EP that he wrote, that he produced, and he sold it for 99 cents. Once he put that out there to his fans bought these stream digital assets at $1 a piece. Some of them bought 20, some bought 60, some bought a single, but 1 million were sold. Tory Lanez made $1 million in less than a minute, in less than 60 seconds. And he did it without the help of any record label, without the help of any accountant, without the help of the machine. So guess what? That cut out a lot of middle people. This money was coming directly to Tory. When that happens, guess who's not happy? That machine. And so to give you a good idea of how this affected it, how this affected the label, or how this affected the machine itself, is let's take TLC, for instance. And this is an extreme case, but it will give you a good idea as to what happens. Now, TLC still remains the top-selling female group of all time. And you've all heard the story about TLC and going bankrupt and all of this. Well, let's just discuss their deal real quick and compare it to what Tory Lanez had discovered. TLC worked out a deal with their management, with their label, that they were getting paid 56 cents per album sold. And that 56 cents was split between the three of them, giving them roughly 19 cents an album. 19 cents. Now remember, albums were being sold for $18. And you mean to tell me that the artists that are doing all of this work, they're doing all the performing, they're doing all of the singing, they're doing all the harmonies, they're doing all the rapping, they're doing all of this work. You sell this product for $18 and you give them 19 cents a piece. So let's just say, hypothetically speaking, they sell 1 million copies. Well, that means that each one of the artists will get $190,000. Well, not really. Because once the label started recouping funds and taxes and all of these fees had taken place, these three women, all of these records sold, millions upon millions of records sold, ended up with $50,000 a piece. $50,000. 60 million records sold. 60 million records sold. And they're making basically no money. 60 million, keep that number in mind. Tory Lanez cut out the entire industry. He sold his as digital assets like cryptocurrency and made $1 million from 1 million records sold. They made $50,000 from 60 million records sold. So guess who's not happy? The machine is not happy. Now you may ask yourself, well, why didn't TLC fall into this "we're gonna get them" situation? One, they were already broke. What else was the industry going to do to them? The other thing is that TLC wasn't coming at the industry, they were coming at Pebbles, their management. That's who most of their attention was focused on. And while their attention was focused on Pebbles, the industry was fine with that as long as they're not implicating the machine. Y'all deal with the management. Stay away from the machine. That's why I think, in my conspiracy theory, that TLC skated past physical harm. Now, why Tory Lanez? I want you to watch this video and watch what Tory Lanez does in this video. This will kind of give you a good idea of what the machine was thinking the moment that this was aired. Check it out.
Before I did the video, I was like, yo, I don't want to celebrate for no reason. I want to make sure I'm celebrating for the right... It's gone. So it's gone.
Nigga X about me, nigga X about me, nigga X about me, nigga X about me. I'm a hustler, I'm a hustler.
Yes, nigga.
I'm a hustler.
A fucking million copies. I just went fucking platinum, nigga. I just sold the equivalent units. You gotta understand it. I just sold the equivalent units at $1. Sold 1 million copies flat, my nigga. That's platinum, and I sold 1 million copies, and I made $1 million in less than a fucking minute, my nigga. Y'all try to hold me back, you can't fucking stop me, my nigga. You can't stop me, bro. Look at this. I want all my fans to understand I'm not even excited for me. I'm excited for y'all niggas, bro. Y'all about to resell this shit and make so much fucking bread. All you niggas who bought 1,000, bought 40 of them shits, y'all about to make... Yo, about me, I'm a hustler, bro. I'm a hustler.
Okay, so now I hope that makes sense to you. Now, the reason why I said earlier that this particular case has historical implications is because I'm going to give you a few people that have spoken out against the machine, and you tell me what happened to these people. Person number one, Prince. Listen to what Prince says publicly over the internet.
The reason why it became such a big deal back then is ever since my third album, I wasn't really taking large advances from the recording companies. I was recording the albums myself in my own studio. So the way I looked at it, I owned the work because I paid for it. And I did all the work. I created it, so I felt like it should belong to me. That said, the companies felt otherwise. And they would always hold this contract up and say, well, you signed it. And I say, well, I understand that. It's not like I want to leave. I just want to, you know, talk about this thing and see if we can't make it more fair. Of course, they wouldn't change, because if they changed, they wouldn't really exist. And that's kind of the situation we're in right today. They're not going to exist much longer.
Okay. Number two, Michael Jackson. Listen to what Michael Jackson says publicly over the internet.
So I'm leaving Sony a free agent. Owning half of Sony. So I own half of Sony's publishing, and I'm leaving them, and they're very angry at me because of it. But I just did good business, you know.
There you have it. And number three, Angie Stone. Listen to what Angie Stone was saying publicly over the internet.
But they have taken all the monies that were due to me they have basically absorbed in that company. And even though there's several class action lawsuits, people that were working on my behalf never even registered the songs. All the songs that I've done, I'm only coming to find out they were not properly registered by the companies that I signed over to. People that were supposed to do their due diligence. So I am truly a walking testimony that God has carried me all this time. Because if you only knew how much money they have taken from me, how much they have stolen from me, monies that I'm supposed to be, I should have been able to retire 20 years ago with the money I've made, supposedly. But there are key people that have been driving the ships.
Okay, so if you look at those particular events, Tory Lanez kind of fell in this space where he wanted to make artists and people aware of their artistry and how they can make more money from their artistry and how they can basically cut out the middleman or just get something fair for their work. And the industry is not feeling that. The industry is a bully. And the industry will take everything you have. We see it time in and time out. There is no depth that the industry won't go to silence people. That's my conspiracy theory. Listen, for those of you that are in the industry, for those of you that are doing podcasts, for those of you that are doing music, you have a better chance and a better space of doing it on your own, putting your stuff out to the world, whether it be YouTube, TikTok, Facebook, just social media, letting the world hear and see your work and going that way. Because with this machine will do everything it needs to do to shut you down and quiet you, unless you are playing by the rules or you're not opening up your mouth to make anybody aware of what's going on. That's my conspiracy theory. Y'all hit me up in the comments. Let me know what you think. Is this far-fetched? Or could this be a thing? Until next time, I'm your host, Q. Thank you for coming to the Truth Be Told podcast. And I'm out.
We break it down, no script, no more. No script, no more. Raw and uncut, every jam is gold. Locked it down, let the facts be told. You bring it heat on Truth Be Told.